Welcome back. Investigating the investigators on Sunday Morning Futures yesterday. I spoke with former House Oversight Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy about the dirty dossier and the 2016 email sent by then FBI Director Jim Comey. Watch this. Take me back to an email that Jim Comey wrote to his upper echelon staff. This is also considered classified, but you've seen it. What can you tell us about it?
Well, take a half step back. I mean, people use the word dossier and it has such an official sound to it. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. It's a series of rank hearsay compilations put together by an FBI source who was later defrocked. What we're trying to figure out is whether or not it was used a fifth time in the intelligence assessment. And you got Brennan, Clapper, and Comey, all three who know full well whether or not it was used in the intelligence assessment, but they're giving you different versions.
Right.
So there is information that exists in December of 2016, and I hope anyone who has access to it, Senator Burr, Devin, whoever is open-minded, go look at that. And I think it will help you understand whether or not that dossier, that unverified hearsay, was used for 5 times or just 4 times by the United States government. It's pretty bad.
So I'll explain this. Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano is here to walk us through it. Basically, what Trey Gowdy was saying was there was an email which was sent by Jim Comey to his leading upper echelon staff, including Baker and Peter Strzok and Andrew McCabe. And in that email, he writes to them, Brennan is insisting the Crown material, being the dossier, be included in the intel assessment, Judge. That's different than what Brennan testified.
Well, you know, there's obviously a conflict between what one said in an email, presumed to be accurate because he's communicating to his staff, and what another said retroactively under oath. So it depends on how aggressive U.S. Attorney Durham in Connecticut, who's the person that the Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr, has assigned to examine this. They use the word examine and its form carefully and explain in a minute. It depends how deep he wants to go. Is he just going to write a report of who he thinks behaved improperly and violated the law? Or is he going to use subpoena power and search warrants and grand juries and actually indict people? If he's going to do the former, we're just going to go back to square one, and we will have all this bad stuff about people, but nobody will be prosecuted. If he's going to do the latter, that's what prosecutors do. They don't do investigations to deliver reports. They do investigations to deliver indictments.
Yeah.
And if they don't have enough evidence to indict, then they leave you alone.
But the reason that this is important is because this is fingering John Brennan. And Brennan has been running around the last 2 years saying that President Trump committed treason. And in fact, if this email is correct, it is basically saying that it was Brennan who said use the dossier in the intel assessment. And the intel assessment, of course, is the assessment that Russia colluded with, that Russia meddled in the U.S. election.
Well, if
nothing to do with Trump.
Right.
It's that Russia meddled.
I haven't seen the email, obviously, but if the email is correct, it directly contradicts what Brennan said under oath.
Exactly.
Which is another thing for the folks in Connecticut to examine, whether or not the former director of the CIA perjured himself in order to make himself look good.
Yeah, and go ahead, Tom.
Judge, I mean, you know William Barr, and you've seen his statements on this, and he just did an interview with Bill Hemmer talking about it. He seems like he's going to sort of go back and get to the bottom of this. A lot of those folks who were at the FBI and the Justice Department, they're all gone now. They've left.
Not all of them.
Well, most of them have.
Well, the names we know are gone.
My point is,
a lot of people involved.
The bad apples are gone. That I agree with.
Do you think that William Barr is going to proceed with an investigation with subpoenas, with indictments, or do you think this will just be a report that, comes and goes?
I wish I had the confidence that you do and that Maria does, that this will be a serious federal criminal investigation. But I know the way law enforcement likes to protect its own. I know the way the team in Connecticut, when they investigated CIA abuse, whitewashed the abuse, and it was there. Dianne Feinstein revealed it on the floor of the Senate. So I don't know where it's going to go. If the New York Times is correct, and this is a report and not a
New
criminal
York Times is
investigation.
not the only
It's a whitewash.
organization that's reported that. Kimberly Strassel in the Wall Street Journal reported that on Friday, that it's a review and that right now Durham does not have subpoena power.
So
or
if he
is it
does not
handled
have
in jury.
subpoena power, he's not going to get to first base. You can only conduct an investigation of this magnitude where the people you're investigating are present and former law enforcement officials who know how the system works. You're not going to get to first base without subpoena power and without a grand jury, because a grand jury indicts.
But can't a review turn into an investigation?
Yeah, but why waste the time with the review? Just do the right thing.
Well, let's not forget that the Congress, the House Oversight Committee, the House Intel Committee, the House Judiciary Committee has done a lot of this work and has had testimony, and some of it's classified already, that they're basically handing over on a silver platter to Bill Barr.
Correct.
And there's more. All of these informants that were going in. Trey Gowdy also talked to me about releasing transcripts related to the investigation from the FISA courts, because we heard from George Papadopoulos on this program where he told us about the informants that came at him.
Right.
Those informant conversations should be transcribed. Watch this. When an FBI agent sends in informants to someone they're looking at, typically those conversations are recorded, right? Those people are wired.
Yeah, I mean, if the Bureau is going to send an informant in, the informant's going to be wired. And if the Bureau is monitoring telephone calls, there's going to be a transcript of that. And some of us have been fortunate enough to know whether or not those transcripts exist, but they haven't been made public. And I think one in particular it has the potential to actually persuade people. Very little on this Russia probe, I'm afraid, is going to persuade people who hate Trump or who love Trump. But there is some information in these transcripts that I think has the potential to be a game changer.
Well, he is correct that whenever there's a wire, there is a transcript. The question is, does the transcript see the light of day? What I think he also is concerned about is why this wasn't presented to the FISA court. And I've been saying this for a long time. Tom and I have talked about this on Brett Baer's show. FISA has corrupted FBI agents, soft form of corruption. If you go to a regular judge, as I was, and make an application for a search warrant, present probable cause of crime, you get the search warrant, and you find evidence of crime, and you prosecute the person, the application you made to the federal judge is revealed to defense counsel, and they can cross-examine the FBI agent. Why didn't you tell this to the judge? Why didn't you tell that to the judge? When you go to a FISA judge and make an application for a search warrant with its lower standard, not probable cause of crime, but probable cause of speaking to a foreign person, call a hotel in Milan to make a reservation, you qualify for a search warrant under FISA. That information is never shown to defense counsel, and the FBI knows that. So we may, for the first time in history, in the 41-year history of FISA, see how it works and see how one-sided it is, because this court issues 99.97% of all requested search warrants. There isn't a court in the country that does that.
Which is why this is so maddening.
Yes.
Because Peter Strzok and his buddies over there at the top of the FBI misled the FISA court.
Absolutely.
And did not tell the FISA court that this dirty dossier, which was unverified and salacious, was actually paid for by the subject of the report's political enemy, Hillary Clinton.
And the reason they were able to do that is for what I just articulated. They knew with certainty that FISA records are never revealed, even if they result in criminal prosecutions.
I don't blame FISA. I blame Peter Strzok and the people who, took advantage of FISA. I understand what you're saying about FISA.
FISA has let them do this, and FISA has been just become an arm of these people.
No, Jim Comey let him do it.
People.
Jim Comey let him do it. Jim Comey even looked Brett Baer in the eye last spring and said, I don't know with certainty that the DNC and the Clinton campaign paid for that dossier. If you're running the FBI and getting a warrant on a member of a presidential campaign, you don't know that the information you're using to get that warrant was paid for by his opponent?
Either he was lying then to Brett, or he was a completely ineffective FBI director. I think he knew everything that was going on. And he lied to Brett.
I think he was very effective.
Come on. Judge, great to see you.
Oh, pleasure, so guys.
Judge Andrew Napolitano there.
This has all been breaking in the last hour. We're expecting a document from the OLC. That's the Office of Legal Counsel at the Justice Department. It's not a household name, but it's a very important unit within the Justice Department that is like the in-house lawyer for the Attorney General, for the White House, really the executive branch, to give them legal opinions as to whether their actions will be upheld under the law. We're told to expect this opinion about issues related to immunity, not in the traditional sense of whether a crime has been committed, but whether the if you will, the invoking of executive privilege by the White House would cover Don McGahn, who is now a private citizen, and it would allow him to forego any testimony which is now scheduled at the House Judiciary Committee on Tuesday. The argument here by the White House is that during the special counsel investigation, people like Don McGahn, who are part of the executive branch, were able to speak freely to special counsel Robert Mueller to provide all sorts of information about conversations with the president, which would normally be shielded. But they took the position that because they were all within the executive branch, that they were able to do so. But the privilege would still apply if this information were to be shared outside of the executive branch, and that's where Congress comes in with subpoenas for records and for testimony. And the White House position has been that the privilege still stands. So that's what you should be looking for in this Office of Legal Counsel opinion. Will the executive privilege still stand? Will it be sufficient that Don McGahn, who is now a private citizen and outside the administration, does not have to comply with the subpoena and testify tomorrow in front of the House Judiciary Committee? Again, the language they're using, Ed, is immunity, but it's not immunity in the traditional sense. It's immunity from having to testify before Congress under the principle that executive privilege has been asserted and that it does have legal standing in this particular case.